Hi, how are you? Last weekend I had a talk with my son, quite a long one, about where he would go to study after school ends. It's only half a year away. The last year ends next spring, and then he has to decide where to go. Well, of course, there is certain kind of a limit. His grades are that kind that I wouldn't recommend anything else but going to university. But there is so many things in university that you can study, how to choose, how to know what different people do for a living and what's interesting and what people actually do. And that's the problem, I think, one of the major problem. They are so very young, so they don't know what people actually do in their offices when they are working. They may know what bus driver does and taxi driver and people in the shop, what do they do, but there are so many trades that people never see what they actually do. And of course, there are these occupations that are vanishing, that we adults know that they are not completely gone, but soon. And then there is, of course, the question that what pays well and what doesn't pay well. It's very fortunate if you have some kind of a burning interest. So you know that if you can study history for the rest of your life, you'll be happy, or you can study biology or animals for the rest of your life, you'll be happy. But if you don't have that kind of thing, if the working identity is missing, there isn't that kind of thing. The things that you are interested about are not in a work realm, but somewhere totally different. Then you have to just decide what can guarantee you the best life that you can have. But it's still quite complicated. And of course, there are a few occupations that my son knows. He knows that I'm a lawyer, entrepreneur, so he sees what I do, although that's also in a realm of papers, not practice what goes on in my head when I do my work. But there are, of course, few traits that we can think about that he would do, and I can quite well describe what they do and how their day goes. And of course, I have known many different persons in many occupations, so I've heard what they talk and how they feel about their work and what are the best things and what are the worst things. So these were the things that we were talking about on the weekend. But I was somehow very cautious because I don't want to be too bossy. I don't want to too much emphasize what I think would be best for him. Of course, as a mother, I think that I know what's best for him. That's in my heart, but I have to stand back and I have to just make my recommendations and try to give as much information as I can, but not to be too bossy. Because I don't want him to be in that kind of situation that he would come to me later and say that, Mom, you gave me the wrong advice. I'm unhappy with this work. I would have chosen something else if you just would have shut up. When I was in that kind of phase, my mother and father didn't have any advice for me. The only thing that I believed and what was taught to me was that I was no good. So I didn't immediately try to get into law school, even though I had quite good grades. But I didn't know that I had that good grades that I could have gone anywhere. But that's a whole different story. But I don't want that to my son. I don't want to tell him that he's not good enough, because he is good enough. I believe, of course, I'm mom, I'm biased. I believe that whatever he sets his mind to, he can accomplish. He's that kind of personality and he has that kind of energy. But where he goes, is he happy? Is that, I think, the main question. I still want him to live a happy and full life and have all the possibilities, all the opportunities that I lacked when I was young. Of course, we have discussed these things over the years, and of course more in these last years, that he has been growing up really fast. Like all my children, he wants a family. He wants multiple children, and he wants to, if he has the chance to have like his own house and big yard and room to play and room to do things. And he's very fortunate to have found a girlfriend who shares his ambitions, so they want a big family. And my son even wants to give his girlfriend and his future wife the opportunity to take care of children at home, which of course is one quite big requirement for work. Because in this area where we live, it's not possible to live in one person's salary unless you are a CEO of some big company. Normal families cannot live here by one person's salary only. But they want to live in the countryside, so that resolves quite a lot, because it's much cheaper to live in the countryside. But that comes to another question. What can you do in the countryside? And for example, my work, I couldn't function as a lawyer entrepreneur in the countryside, not in this line of work that I do, where customers or clients want to meet you face to face. They want to build that trust. And that's not easily done due to these telephones and video conferences. It's not the same. The older you are, the more you require personal presence. My words are like missing today, more than usual. But it's very important, and that's why I cannot live in a countryside, or my business would just die. But what are the traits that you can do if you live in a smaller towns? And there are fortunately few. And what can you do that you are able to always ramp up if you want more money? And there are only few occupations that let you do that, but they are very competed. And then there is, of course, these are all the things in personal life that he wants. He wants to live in a countryside. He wants to have a big family. He wants to have a possibility to let his wife stay at home and take care of the kids properly, like he thinks is right. Of course, young man's mind is full of ideals, but like it's supposed to be that way, and it's good to have that kind of ideals. And of course, this he is a believer. He has found God, so it makes his life much more easier. But of course, that limits a little bit the occupations that is wise to go to, because in some circles how should I put it, you will face resistance if you are not aligned ideological wise, and that's really sad. I hope that I wouldn't have to live to that day when believing in Christ and believing in God is a considered bad thing in any occupation, but it's a small thing, but it helps the life of a young man, because it gives him a basic role, it gives him support, it gives him an answers. And I thought about it when we talked, that there are so many open questions to young people all the time. And when you have this new thing, an open question, you think that you have to know what the answer is. But when we get older, we get wiser and lazier, and we do not try to find answers to every question at the second they emerge, or if ever. But of course, if you are a young person and you hear about the problem like now, then you have to know the answer. And if you believe in God, then you have answers to quite many questions before you can ask them. So that makes a young person's life easier. And of course, his girlfriend shares these ideals with him, which is very good. There has to be really many decisions made quite quickly, to where to study, and then of course where to live, and then of course where to settle, and where to work. And boys are a little bit more childish than girls, so I think that girls are much more advanced in the same age. So that makes the life a little bit harder for boys in this small time lapse. And of course there is military service that takes a year from a young man's life, but on the other hand it gives a year to mature before you move on to work life. And it can be in the middle of studies, so it doesn't really do so much harm as people usually think. But there is no question he wants to go to military service. He has reported himself already. And I'm grateful of that. It's a certain structure in life if you decide to live by the book and do all the things that your fathers did and your grandfathers did. And that's another question, the growing up to be a man and to be a father. And of course there is now the model of the dads being similar like moms and taking the paternity leave and like they would turn out to be a little moms just by living. But it's a different role shift from the traditional role of a man that automatically comes to these young men. And that's funny, because you think that is taught, but it emerges if you don't suffocate it. That's my theory. Because when I look at these young men, and I've known them since they were like 6-year-olds and came to hug me with their noses and everything, but they turned, or majority of them turned to men, like so obvious. Nobody can't raise them to take that role. They just take it if you don't try to suffocate it. And I'm really glad that he has this role, and I really hope that he can like sip into that rat's role when the time comes. But it's difficult. It's difficult to be supportive, but not too bossy. And I think that this would be some kind of like what makes us something to underline. A few things. Listen, don't tell. Listen to your children. Listen to them when they start to talk all their lives, as much as they tell you, as much as they discuss with you. I'm very fortunate that my kids discuss with me about very, very many things. I do not fool myself to think that they would tell me everything. They don't, but majority is a best solution. So they tell me much. They tell me really much. And the second thing would be that try to guide, but don't be bossy. Do not command. Do not demand. Try to guide them. So tell them what you know. What do you know about occupations? What do you know about family life? What do you know about where to live? What do you know about taking care of a house? It's a quite big ordeal. And this would be the third. Think about their lives as a whole. What do they want? If they want a family, if they want to have hobbies that don't produce anything, if the main thing in their lives is to have a family and to have a children, and they do not care so much about anything else, then accept that and try to build your guidelines for that, so that your children can have the happiest life that they possibly can. I know that many people think when it comes to occupations that choose the one that you can make most money in. But what's the use for money if you are working all the time and you cannot have any time to spend it or be with your loved ones? That's not fair. That's not happiness. That's not genuine life for a person whose main goal is to have a family. Of course, if they want to make a lot of money and be like really shiny careers, then that's different. Then that's their path. And then it's not wise to, well, what about if you have children? If they don't want it? But every kid is different. Every child is different. Every life is different. The best we can do is to try to support them or what they've become. And I know it's difficult. It's very difficult not to think about what you would have become if you would have had all the opportunities that these kids have. I know that I say too often that if I had the possibilities that you have now, if I had the internet, I would have been like reading all the information of the world until my head would have exploded. If I have had this schooling system that they have now, all the things that they have, all the knowledge, all the technology, everything, this open environment, more open than it was when I was young. But despite of that I think that if I would have been born now or 10 or 20 years ago, where would I be now? But they were born then and I was born 50 years ago, so nothing matches. So I just have to let them be what they want to be. They grew up in different reality. I remember that a few years ago school had a really problem because children said that they want to be celebrities. And my children, of course, asked me that what is this talk, Mom, and what is a celebrity? And I explained to them, of course, they knew what celebrity is, but then there was the question, aren't they rich? I told them, no, they are not rich. Not in this country, they are not. Of you are. And if you are celebrity, if you are known for something, you have to have a extra skill. And usually very many of them have. So if you are, example, an athlete, if you are a Formula driver or if you are an ice hockey player or footballer, then people know you. And that's your first skill. And they know you for your funny smiles or jokes or the personality. And that's the celebrity personality. So there are very few, although there are many, who are just known for being them. So just known for partying and just known for doing stupid stunts. But stupid stunts are even another gift than not just being known. There are very few people who are known just for posing in the magazines. Oh God. Of course there are people who are known posing in magazines, but I meant the face shots. And they were quite surprised, and they didn't get the grasp that people actually don't make money on talking YouTube, or most people don't. Some do, yes, but not all, and they are not rich, and that's not occupation, and you have to do something else. But neither of them has ever had the notion that they would want to be in publicity, and that's one thing that I'm somehow relieved, because they are so young that if they would do something stupid now, it would haunt them for the rest of their lives, and all the pictures would have been putting forward whenever they do something. But neither of them, they don't want to do it. They want to just watch other people do stuff but not get in the middle of it, and I'm very glad of that. But that was again a sidetrack. But give them a guidelines. Don't be bossy. Try to figure out what they want in their life as a whole, and let them choose their own way, their own path. They don't try to get them do what you couldn't do. And I think that by thinking of those and remembering those, we'll be just fine parents. The only thing that we can pass to them is knowledge and experience and support. So when they think that they don't believe themselves, we can say that we believe in you. That was quite good end. So I hope you have a great day. I see you soon. Goodbye.